Call to order the special meeting of the Brentwood Board of Aldermen, January 6th of 2016. If you'd all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka.
Here.
Alderman Slusser.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderman Kramer is absent. Alderman Tui.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Manister is absent. Alderman Saunders.
Here.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. The purpose of the meeting is to take care of a couple items that were on Monday's agenda that we didn't have a chance to meet. And really what I wanted to do is just make sure that we weren't, by our lack of a meeting, jamming up local businesses who are counting on us to get things done. So there's just a few things on the agenda this evening, and I'm planning on having everybody home and in bed by 8 o'clock. We'll see how that goes.
Famous last words.
So the first item on the agenda is a bill number 6038. We're going to do first and second reading, and if you recall, this is the agreement with Todd Stryler to replace on a temporary basis Justin Wise, who is now working for the city of Chesterfield. So, Mr. City Attorney, if you'd give us first reading by title only, please.
Okay. Bill 6038, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into and execute a planning advisory services agreement with Todd Stryler, AICP, LEED, AP of Stryler Planning LLC, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Bola, do you want to talk on this a little bit, or is it fairly self-explanatory?
I think it is, but I called around to some other city administrators, managers, explaining our situation and asking for recommendations on who we could hire temporarily. And actually, Justin suggested Todd. And I remembered that when I worked for the city of Richmond Heights, I had worked with Todd on different projects for the city. So he comes highly recommended. We also provided in your packet that went out last week, statement of qualification that provides information on the different local municipalities that he's worked for and the type of work that he's done. For instance, this year alone, he's worked on the comprehensive plan update for the city of Lebanon, Illinois. He's done a lot of comprehensive plan updates, Pacific Missouri, Weldon Springs, Warson Woods, Bridgeton, and I believe Todd tells the story that he got started in the private sector and forming his own company by first working with the city of Baldwin on their comprehensive plan. So we're thankful that Todd is able to provide assistance during this transition time for us.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the Alderman? Alderman Slusser.
The hourly rate, is that a pretty standard rate for this? And then second, about how many hours per week do we anticipate needing the services?
So the planner that the city hired back in 2012, her rate was significantly less.
Okay.
But she had kind of gradually removed herself from doing day-to-day planning work.
Was that Ellen?
No, her name was Kalkemeyer.
Oh.
Lisa Kalkemeyer. But some of the other planners that we were considering at that time, their rates were very similar to Todd's.
Okay. And then as a follow-up was how many hours a week do you anticipate?
I think initially we talked about 12.5 hours, but it just depends on some of the projects that come before us.
Okay.
It could be more than that. I mean, for instance, we have that redevelopment on Manchester and Hanley, and there are several meetings scheduled that we've shared with the board, so it just depends. It could easily be more than that.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Keith stole my question, but I did have a question about that. I looked on the website involving the city planners, the AICP, sorry, and they had a formula and I applied sort of a rudimentary analysis to that formula, and I came up with actually $120 an hour. So I mean,
Actually, that's where we started.
Okay. So that was.
I got a discount for the
Okay.
city.
And that was at least part of the analysis, you think?
That is Todd's actual rate.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions from the Alderman? With that, the mayor is going to raise his hourly rate.
Yeah, really.
Sorry. I couldn't resist. Let's see, with that, let's do a second reading of the bill by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney.
Bill 6038, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into and execute a planning advisory service agreement with Todd Straller, AICP, lead AP of Straller Planning LLC, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
Motion to perfect Bill 6038 into ordinance form, please.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the board perfect bill number 6038 into ordinance form. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call, please.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser,
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Bill number 6038 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen upon signature by the mayor, becomes ordinance number 4689.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of doing Todd's thing first was so that he could be under contract and help us out with the next two items on the agenda. So thank you for that. The next item on the agenda is B. It's bill number 6036, and we're going to do a first and second reading of this bill. So first reading, Mr. City Attorney, please.
Bill 6036, an ordinance granting approval of an amended site plan to A. Bomarito Wines, which permits under the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances, the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Todd, you want to tell the board a little bit about this one?
Sure. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the board. It's nice to have a contract in place and be serving you immediately after on the agenda. But anyway, as you know, Bomarito Wines has an establishment right on 2827 Brentwood Boulevard, and they expanded that, almost doubled it in 2014. And one of the things that they needed to do tonight is just to, as a formality, update the amended site plan. What they wanted to do is eliminate an access off Collier and then extend the original ingress and egress, mostly for emergency access purposes and, of course, to accommodate some truck movements. I drove by the site on Monday, and these changes have already occurred. So, like I said, this is more of a formality to approve their amended site plan, which, in fact, has already been executed. And I'd like to mention that Matt Wolf is also here representing the petitioner if you have any questions that I might not be able to answer. By this point, I'd recommend, or staff would recommend, that you would pass a motion to approve this amended site plan.
Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the concerns with regard to the second curb cut, I was on planning and zoning when this first came through, and one of the concerns raised at the time was timing issues having to do with loading in and the hours of when deliveries are going to be made and the possible impact on Pendleton and the residents that live along that street. Can you tell us from your experience, I don't think Todd can, but maybe you can, tell us from the experience whether or not that's come to pass? There have been trucks that have had to double park onto Pendleton, and that this ingress and egress, the widening of this, and there not being necessary a second curb cut like this, that's not going to have any adverse impact on the residents on Pendleton?
Do I have to come here?
I think so.
So you can be on camera and so we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. My name's Matt Wolf. I'm representing Tony Bomarito. They have changed two things. One is the trucks are now scheduled to come in later in the morning, so they don't sit out on Pendleton anymore. And then we now have a second dock so that they can park in the dock spot while they're waiting, because the previous scenario, they had a truck in the dock that's part of their evening shift, so there was always blocking the dock. So now there's a second dock, and the trucks can pull into that dock while they're waiting.
Okay.
So nobody should be on Pendleton.
And this widening doesn't have any impact on the ability of those trucks to jockey around and get into that second dock?
Well,
It actually makes it easier?
the new dock is much wider, and the curb cuts are a lot more generous.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay?
Any further questions for either Todd or the petitioner? Okay, very good. Mr. City Attorney, second reading, please.
Bill 6036, an ordinance granting approval on amended site plan to 8 Bomarito Wines, which permits under the provisions of Title 4, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood City Code of Ordinances, the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you.
Motion, Your Honor.
Mr. Leahy, I thought you were going to go ahead and make the motion, sorry.
Motion to prevent Bill 6036 into ordinance form.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board perfect bill number 6036 into ordinance form. Is there any discussion from the board at this time? If seeing none, we'll have a roll call, please.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Alderman Schlusser?
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Bill number 6036 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4690.
Okay, thank you. Third item on the agenda this evening, and last item on the agenda this evening. The folks from Mesh were here the other night, and we had planned to have a public hearing on their site plan, which requires, I believe it's a rezoning. And unfortunately, because we got caught a little bit unawares and not had a meeting, we weren't able to reschedule the public hearing. But we did want to have them in tonight so that we could get a first reading of the bill and the site plan done and have the board ask any questions of them or staff so that we could move forward. I would ask you, if you haven't had a chance to review the plan, if you would do that now carefully or as carefully as you can, because the idea here is to put them in a good position that if there's any concerns that the board has or any reason that the board might want to not approve this development, to speak now so that they can be relatively certain that as we approach the 19th and do a second reading and a final approval, of course, subject to public comment, that they can be addressing any of those concerns as soon as possible. They do have some pretty significant financial commitments and whatnot that need to take place very quickly after that meeting, and so the idea would be to put them in as good a position as possible if we have any concerns at all, to let them have them now as opposed to the day before they're supposed to close. So with that, I'm going to ask the city attorney to have the first reading, please, by title only.
Bill number 6037, an ordinance granting approval of site development plan and conditional use permits to Mesh Salon for a hair salon at property numbered 8943 Manchester Road, which permits under the provisions of Title 4, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances, the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Todd, you want to go ahead and give the board the brief overview of this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a point of clarification. You mentioned it was a rezoning.
It's a conditional use permit.
Yeah, it's just a CUP,
sorry.
and evidently, everything under a half acre goes to the CUP. It is a permitted use otherwise. It's a hair salon, as you know. It's being proposed at 8943 Manchester Road. And upon a site visit, it looks like that site's been vacant for quite a while. So I think you guys might want to encourage the petitioner to move forward with these plans to see some improvements. Some of the improvements that I'd like to make note of that are going to take place is, of course, to provide parking pursuant to the city's parking requirements. And to do this, they are actually utilizing a previously executed cross-access easement, which is already in place. I've read that. It's already recorded. They're also doing what is called a parking license agreement. And this, of course, is between them and their adjacent property owner. The cars will actually be stored on the adjacent neighbor's property, which is a general contractor. These sites will be very close, almost close enough to where they would be considered a handicap accessible. I don't know about the grades, but they're certainly in close proximity to the proposed salon. And the proposed parking would allow them, I believe, to have 4 salon or beauticians, if you will, on duty at any given time. And this meets the petitioner's demands. So the parking seems to be addressed, again, with the cross-access easement and with this parking license agreement. Some other ordinance requirements that I'm sure you're aware of is that this site backs up to some residential property, which would require a fence or some screening. Again, I went and looked at the site, and there's already a wood fence there. I can't imagine there'd be any reason to put another fence up. It seems to be in good repair. The other issue, and I didn't go over this in depth, but there are some landscaping requirements in the city's ordinance that may require a tree, maybe in the front yard. But other than that, I think this certainly meets the comprehensive plan with regard to, locating a commercial use in a commercial district. I strongly would encourage a favorable recommendation for the fact that it is a vacant building. It looks like it's been vacant for some time. Again, the petitioners are here. They could certainly answer any questions you might have, but I don't know how long it's been vacant. Maybe you all do. But it seems to be a good fit for this type of use. It won't generate a lot of traffic. The hours have been limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The only conflict I'd see is maybe if they're moving trucks on their adjacent neighbor's site, maybe there might be some conflict, but I doubt people are going to get up that early to get their hair done anyway. So it seems to be a complementary use. I don't, nor does staff envision any kind of parking issues or ingress, egress, or even on-site circulation issues. If you've been to the adjacent site, it's actually a one-way loop. So I think it works out pretty well. If you look at the site plan, you'll notice they're doing some pretty substantial work in that front yard, which will basically replace and improve the existing walkway. It's a beautiful building, and I think it's ambitious, but I think it's neat to see the folks make this into a business. And a hair salon, I don't know how many are in the town, but I drove up and down Manchester. There's no similar uses too close to this one. Not that wouldn't be permitted, but I think it's a good fit. Like I said, staff has spent substantial time looking into this, and I don't see any negative recommendations from staff. And as you know, P&Z looked at this on November 12th and on December 9th. I believe they had a public hearing during one of those meetings as well. And at this point, I don't see any negative recommendations from them. What I could do with the CUP, is it typical to read off the findings of fact, dictate them, or they're duly noted in the record, in the staff report?
And we make them available at the table. That way we
Okay.
don't have to read them into the record.
Well, it's a shame that we couldn't have done the public hearing on Monday. But again, what the petitioner is doing is they're looking into their electric permit, their plumbing permit, so they're going to try and work through that, and possibly even a grading permit if needed. So they're going to be moving forward as we continue to look into this and get the public hearing noticed. And I suppose we'll be back on January 19th. But again, it'd be nice if you had any concerns. The petitioners are here. I'm here. I can look into some additional issues if you have any. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Any questions? Alderman Plefka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as I understand it, there's currently 1, 2, 3, I can't tell. My eyesight is 1, 2, 3, 5 parallel parking spaces that are mapped out for the immediately to the west property that are parallel parked along their eastern border that they share with this property. Is that accurate?
Maybe 5. I'm counting 4.
Okay.
I'm looking
it looks
at
like it might be
the,
4.
yeah,
So, but
okay.
the one that's farthest south, that would go away, correct?
Yeah, because that's where they're going to be parking
Okay.
perpendicular to the building.
So my only question really is this, and I tried to drive by and see if I could tell
It's
this
hard
by
to get
looking at it. But there's a bit of a retaining wall on the property to the west, on their side of the drive.
Yeah.
It's like a jagged, staggered step brick retaining wall.
Yeah.
Are these parking spaces that are going to be parallel to Manchester Road, do they allow enough of a space to go in and out that people can make a turn without running into that retaining wall? Is there enough of a space? Is that drive wide enough to accommodate somebody backing out and turning and then going back onto Manchester Road?
Yeah, in fact, I looked at that same issue. What you're talking, do you mind if I approach you?
That's fine, yeah.
So I've kind of shaded the area that's going to be improved.
Right.
You're talking about this stall here. How is this guy going to get back?
Well, if he's going to turn like this and he's going to turn to back up and then go on to Manchester Road, does this wall come into play at all? Does that
Keep in
landscaping
mind,
wall come
it's
into
one
play?
way. So this is one way.
Oh, so he's got to go
He's gotta go this
up
way.
into the, I see.
So no one's going to, he may come in this way, you can come
Okay.
in either way on Manchester, but this is the way the on-site circulation goes.
So my bigger issue would actually be that parking space closest to the building.
Fully graded. This is all going to be newly graded in here.
Okay. And you don't think there's any problem with the turning radius to affect this retaining wall that's on this side?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, I drove a Suburban up there. It's not gonna be easy, but as long as these stalls are 20 foot by 10 and they meet the minimum,
Okay.
I can't see it as a limiting condition. You know, maybe they can say that's for compact cars or something like that.
Okay.
Did you all understand what the Alderman's concerned?
I'm not sure where he's talking about.
Would you mind if I kind of describe the issue and kind of show what's going on?
That's fine.
See, okay, so this is where,
Todd, you should approach the microphone.
Yeah.
okay, what we're looking at is the proposed parking on the site to the west. So that's your salon right here. That's your front door. With this stall going in, is there going to be any conflict with that retaining wall as you back out on Hensley Construction right here?
Oh, no.
Is there going to be enough room? Yeah, it's almost a double wide aisle.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can actually fit, if you wanted to, you could have a car go in and a car go out.
Yeah.
I think it's wide enough.
So the drive width, it's 18 at the, it's probably at every bit of 18 foot wide.
Okay.
That's actually what it says here on the map.
And that's,
No, I've got a
I
template.
did see that.
I've got a template I could put on there, you know what I mean? It shows turning movements and see what it looks like to back out.
I was just thinking about somebody in a Suburban or
Yeah,
a
that's-
larger vehicle
yeah.
having to back out with a car next to them, having to back straight out as far as they had to, being close to the house, and then having to try to negotiate that turn.
And is there a drop off there maybe? Is that the concern? I can't
No,
remember.
there's not, it's pretty flat. My concern
Well,
was,
see, I don't know if they're gonna be hitting. If anything, they're gonna damage their car. I don't think there's a drop off, or I don't think it's going down to a loading dock.
Yeah,
no.
I think it's pretty flush with that. I don't remember there being a big.
Yeah, I'll
There-
look into it.
there
I'll look
is, it's
into
not
it.
big, it's that big.
Oh, okay.
And that's my only concern.
Yeah, I mean, really, the issue we're dealing with, this must have been a residential home at one time.
Sure.
And so there was no parking requirements. I suppose they somehow, I don't know where they parked. Did they have on-site parking, on-street parking at one time on Manchester Road? So there really was no parking at all.
I mean, depending on how many years ago you're talking about, yeah.
Well, I bet this house is 80 years old.
Yeah.
But it's a residential,
You're right about that.
so I don't know how,
It was only paved in like 1962 or something.
yeah, so the condition, the situation really is there's no parking served on the site at all. So the fact that, they've got to have a cross-access, and they've got to have a parking agreement with their neighbor to even make this site work for commercial use. So again, by them investing in these parking stalls, not only would it allow them to have hopefully a very profitable, prosperous salon, it will certainly appreciate the property value in itself to allow this to be another office use or possibly, commercial service use on down the road. And again, the petitioner, as the mayor indicated, I believe the petitioner's going to buy this. I mean, they're not a lease. I think they're going to purchase the site and utilize it for a salon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Do we have any other
The
questions?
site was always shared, that parking, it was always reciprocal, because it was a charity for a while.
Yeah, I was looking at the deed. It
And
was recorded in
they owned
2000.
both,
It was
West
recorded
and-
in 2000, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it went on way before that. This
Yeah,
was
that reciprocal.
Just a formalized deal.
Yeah, the cross-access has been there forever, but the parking, I think, was something that might have been more recently executed. I'm not sure.
And I didn't see the diagram, or maybe I'm not sure where, Alderman Plufka, if you could show me that, but there's no issue with fire trucks or safety, anything like that.
Again, here's
Pulling that out, there is, do you,
18 feet wide.
18 foot wide is plenty.
Yeah.
And this is like a nursery here.
Ted?
So you
Okay.
come in, you enter, it's one way.
Okay.
So it's one way right here. I
Okay.
shaded the area that they're improving.
Okay.
So when you come up here, his concern was, well, gosh,
Coming
how much
out there.
time,
There's our
how much
chief.
room do we have to back up?
See, and he was worried about having a reason to be here.
But this, the circulation is one way.
Yeah, I would like to keep it to one conversation at a time. I'm sorry. We got one going on over here and one going on over here. I don't mind if you guys,
That's fine. No,
if it's easier over there, I just want
That's
to have
fine.
one at a time.
Manchester Road.
Right.
Sorry.
This is the improved
I'm sorry.
area, and then this is, of course, this is the next door neighbor's property.
Yeah, this is the first I've seen this, but I don't anticipate any problem. The building sits close enough to the road where we wouldn't have any problem accessing it. So,
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions from the Alderman? Alderman Saunders.
Not being here last night, were there any any residents here that were wanting to speak at that? So hopefully, our
We
questions are being
never
answered.
convened the meeting, so we never found out.
Oh, okay, you didn't, yeah,
We
just by.
couldn't, by
Okay.
definition, so.
Well, I just didn't know if
Yeah.
maybe you,
There were people here, whether they came for the
For that
public
issue.
hearing or
Okay.
for the meeting, I have no idea.
okay. Have we
Were
heard
there any speaker
anything,
cards?
Bola, from
No.
anyone yet?
No,
or at planning
we have
and
not.
zoning? Okay. I mean, at least that gives you a little more assurance if our questions are answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, again, thanks very much. We will plan on doing the second reading and the public hearing of this on the 19th, and, yes,
We were planning on closing on the property tomorrow,
okay,
so, I just wanted to put that out there.
okay. Well, obviously, that's your choice.
Well, yeah, so are we
you know,
gonna,
There are two board members absent this
Okay.
evening, and we can't guarantee you anything, but the
Okay.
purpose of having this was to let you get a sense for where the board is at, and
okay,
I can't advise you what to do, but I certainly don't, I haven't heard any serious concerns.
I can just tell you,
Poll us afterwards.
my questions were questions, they were not concerns. We was just trying to get a handle on it, so.
All right, very good.
Motion to adjourn, Your Honor?
There's been a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out.
4 minutes in.